So I'm very excited to welcome today Jason D Varga, and he is a man with a lot of different abilities and gifts and skills. He's a hypnotist, a mentalist, a psychic, and he calls himself a wizard to encompass everything that he does. So I love that. I'm going to ask for a full explanation of wizard, and it of course conjures up all sorts of images like the amazing Camelot days with Merlin, and then and then it conjures up images, of course, of Harry Potter, and
maybe,
yeah, a lot of other things. A lot of the younger generation, really relate to that. My daughter, I think she's read every book like 10 times, every Harry Potter book, and she's 27. So, so I'd love to hear all about you. And I thought we'd just start by you telling us a bit about yourself and your life and what you love, and then we'll go from there. So thank you so much. Big welcome. Yay.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for having me on and organising this. What can I say? I guess without going into too much of how or why I got to where I am at the moment, I'll just explain where I am at the moment. So I do platform shows to try to expand people's awareness and their open minds up to the possibilities of what is real and what they can potentially do themselves. Everything that I do, I always say to people, anyone else can do it with the right mind frame and the right training. Anyone else can do it as long as they believe in themselves. So the hypnosis part of it, well, that's just all psychology. Hypnosis isn't a magic power that comes from my eyes. It's just a psychological process. I use hypnotic language with a lot of other modalities to sort of enhance things. So if I'm doing a energy routine, say if I'm throwing a ball of energy across a stage or something to get someone to fall over, I'll also, it sounds a bit bad, I always have someone behind them catching them. But I always throw in a bit of hypnotic language as well, just to make sure the effect really looks like what it should. So I do a lot of energy routines, a lot of contact mind reading and non-contact mind reading. So whenever I have a client come for a reading, the first thing I do is have a look at their hand and do a quick palm analysis, because it allows me to touch their hand. So then I get my contact telepathy going and I'm getting my connection.
Right.
So it's a sneaky way of, it's sort of like psychometry, but with a human.
Oh, okay. Can you work from a distance, or is it much easier to touch the person?
I'm very tactile. So I generally get that contact first.
Yep.
I can do it from a distance. It does make it a little bit difficult, but I choose to use different modalities than if I'm doing it from a distance.
Right. Okay.
So I might use spirit help me a little bit. I might go, okay guys, it's the same as when I'm doing my question answering platform bit. How I explain it to people is I actually cheat. So I'll do a remote viewing the night before.
Right.
So I get an idea of what sort of questions I'll get.
Okay.
I'll have people, So I'll have, because when you're remote viewing, when you send your consciousness out, time and space are irrelevant. So I'll do that the night before, or maybe a couple of days before. Sometimes if I'm really lazy, that afternoon before that. I then get everyone to write down a question and really put their thoughts and emotion into it on a piece of paper, screw it up, fold it up, whatever, chuck it in a bowl. And then I'll grab those, and without opening them, I'm using the psychometry to then match that piece of paper to the person.
Right.
So I might get a feeling of what question it was from my remote view.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sort of have a look around the audience. I might have to go up and touch a couple of people's hands and then go, right, this question's for you. And then I'll use spirit or connecting with the person psychically to get my answer.
Wow.
So I'm using about 3 or 4 modalities wrapped in one.
Okay, that's great. Oh, I'm curious now. Did you use any remote viewing before the interview today?
It is actually funny. I do have I will send you a photo on Facebook, something that I'd posted a month ago, and you'll have a good laugh when I send that to you.
Actually, I could even edit it into the interview.
You probably could. You probably could. Yes, when you look at the post from a month ago, you'll go, okay.
Love it.
a little prediction, let's say.
Okay, cool. Great. So your work that you do, does it have a behind it like an intention for healing or wellness for people? What is the main sort of mission or purpose of the work that you do? What are you raising vibration? I think you said raising awareness. So you're helping to promote ascension on the planet. What do you think is, how would you word the prime sort of motivation for what you do?
I guess there's 2 parts to what I do. There's the public demonstrations to try to get people to go, oh, okay, this is possible, for the power of their own mind, obviously.
Yeah.
With the private stuff, so with the therapy side of it, so let's say the psychological therapy side of it first, I came about that the wrong way around. I'd learnt hypnosis through books and whatnot, and started doing hypnosis shows at like comedy clubs and things like that.
Yeah.
And then many years ago, I discovered that I couldn't get the proper insurance to do hypnosis or stage hypnosis.
Oh.
So I actually had to do clinical hypnotherapy to get my insurance.
Oh.
But from there, there was that major shift in me where I went, I'm doing it less for entertainment. I really love just helping people now.
Yes.
So when people come to me for a healing, they won't just get the psychological side of it. They'll get my intuition kicking in and going, okay, this person's, maybe lying to themselves, or they've got something going on that they're not ready to admit or whatever. So I sort of use the therapeutic modalities with the counselling and hypnotherapy and psychology, but I'm using my intuition as well. And then I may end up using energy for a healing or something like that. It's interesting. I always say I'm not the one healing someone.
Yeah.
Their mind heals themselves.
Sure.
I had a lady who had suffered for 4 years with a certain skin disease.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't sleep at night because of it and all the rest of it. Her belief system was very much into archangels.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of thaumaturgy as well, which was ritual type magic.
Yeah.
So we did, I think I was doing Enochian chants and did a whole ritual for about an hour. I got a message from her 2 days after that. She'd actually slept a whole night, which she hadn't done in 4 years.
Yeah.
And a few weeks after that, she'd been to her specialist, and the specialist basically turned around and said, unless I'd seen you before, I'd say you would never had this disease.
Fantastic.
So she'd rid it, and as I said, that wasn't me. That was just me working with her belief system. She's the one that healed herself.
Absolutely. Because we're all energy. It's all energy, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm just a facilitator. I'm just a channel.
Absolutely. So when did your awareness of your abilities and higher, gifts and spiritual abilities, when did the awareness of that come in? Was it a particular thing that triggered that for you in your life?
There was two major incidents.
Mm-hmm.
Or one of them was probably a lot more major than the other. So I had spirit at me a lot when I was a child, and
how was that?
didn't say anything to anyone. Well, I thought I was crazy, So a week before my 16th birthday, I did something a little bit silly and woke up 3 days later in hospital. And I was very, very fortunate because suicide survivors have to go speak to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And this was back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And the psychiatrist I had to go see that the hospital put me in touch with was actually a spiritual person.
Oh.
So I was really lucky. And he said, look, I'm not going to put you on drugs. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I think I know what's going on with you. And I'm like, okay, you actually believe what I'm saying to you, what's going on? And he's like, this is what you got going on.
Wow, that was so
it was sort of
you to connect.
Yeah. And so it was sort of a slow and steady build up from about the age of 16.
Yep.
Dad came home with a Reader's Digest with Uri Geller with a bent spoon on the cover.
Yes.
And so that really took my imagination, and, he was my childhood hero, basically.
Yes, he was amazing, Uri Geller.
Yeah. So, I sort of went from there, got heavily involved in the rockabilly scene when I started driving, the dancing in the cars.
Right.
So everything sort of took a back seat.
Yeah.
And then later in life, I sort of started coming back around into it.
Yeah.
Studied everything I could. The pinnacle, I guess, was, I must be going back maybe 10 years ago now. God, I'm getting old. They filmed, some uni students filmed a little documentary on me. And because I mentioned Uri Geller, they had to okay it by him. Yes. And so they sent him the footage and all the rest of it. And I was sitting at home with my wife during the evening, and this email comes in from Uri Geller saying, he'd seen the video, he's endorsing it, and he endorsed me. And, from my childhood hero, I was just like, I was bouncing off the walls. I was so happy. So, yeah.
Wow. To have your ultimate person that you look up to contact you and give you that affirmation, that's really special.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Oh, how wonderful. What would be your most perhaps powerful spiritual experience that you've had? Would you be happy to share that with us? You've probably had so many.
Oh God, there's so many. I guess there's certain ones that stick in your mind. Yeah. I remember I purchased a Ouija board because I liked the design of it. It was an old Celtic sort of one. Mm-hmm. And I got it home. My daughter was probably only about, she may have been 15, 16 at the time. Mm-hmm. And she's like, how's this work? Play and da-da-da. And I'm like, because my daughter's very, very open as well. Right. And so we started having a bit of a play. And it was just the two of us. And one of my uncles came through that passed way before my daughter was born. She knew nothing about this particular family member. And so I went, okay. I put my hands off the planchette thinking, could be ideomotor response. I could be making small unconscious movements. So I just tested it. Caitlin was the only one with the hands on a plancher, and I asked how he passed, and everything came through with the correct validation. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that was a really good one, really good validation, you know. But the strength of the what happened afterwards was what really got me. I put the board away without closing it properly. Mm-hmm. Lesson learned. In bed that night, and I get basically either side of me whack, like someone belting the bed either side of me to get my attention. And it was my uncle, and I was just sat bolt upright. This is about 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, I need to get some sleep. Go away. I will talk to you tomorrow. So yeah, that's one that sort of sticks in my mind.
Yeah. I think too with Ouija boards, I don't know a lot about them, but I think you have to be quite careful energetically with using them, because you can bring in other energies that are not of a higher vibration necessarily. So I guess it comes with a bit of a warning for people that, you know, just be mindful not to, you know, create a fear-based mentality on things. But I just think, I know that you have to be careful with that, don't you, with those sorts of...
It's the way I explain it to people is, a lot of people go, oh, they're bad. It's a tool. Yeah. You wouldn't give a angle grinder or a drill or electric hacksaw to a 2-year-old, you know.
It's a great metaphor.
You got to be respectful of it.
That's right.
So as long as you use it in the right way and you're respectful of it,
and you know what you're doing,
they're safe.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Don't play with them if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. Very good. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your feelings about the energies at the moment on the planet, and how are you feeling in terms of what's happening, the direction that we're going at the minute. Personally, if I can, you know, share, I feel like there's some really amazing shifts happening. There's some very high vibrational energy coming down that's really pushing us, accelerating our growth, and pushing humanity to really become aware and to become more loving and to open our hearts and to transmute lower vibrational, you know, fear-based energies that the planet has always had but has been hidden. So now it's all coming to the surface in order for it to be cleared and transmuted, and it won't be in alignment with the high vibrational energies that we're going into, you know, all those, you know, all the really yucky stuff that's coming up at the moment, that we're seeing, you know, on the internet and everything, and even on mainstream media. I think there was a recent segment on pedophilia on 60 Minutes even, which is unusual, and for the elite people being involved in it. So there's, from my perspective, a lot of amazing things happening that you won't see in the mainstream media. And what's your perspective on that, Jason? What are you feeling? Have you got any inner guidance about that? Love to hear your perspective.
I do definitely think it's almost not a cycle, but it's coming into a big shift. People are becoming more and more spiritually aware every day. I think what I term as book religions, look, they have their place, and most of the books themselves have a great message. They've just been taken the wrong way or out of context and heavily edited. But with the decline of the book religions and the rise of spirituality again, I think we are headed for a major shift. Mm-hmm. But humans being humans, and especially those in charge, I think are sabotaging it a little bit with all this, you know, 5G and all the other stuff that they're sending different energies around the whole globe. You know, it's affecting some people negatively.
Yeah.
which is a shame because it's actually they're playing. Whether you believe in God, higher power, the universe, whatever you want to call that source, these humans with their technology are playing that, and that's not always going to work out for the best. No. So I think we're going to be going into an era where it will actually be trying to find that balance, the yin and the yang, the man-made energies going on, and the actual people that are tapping into just the natural energy, that we all can tap into. And a lot more people are doing that. But I think people have to be a little bit careful that the energies they tap into aren't the man-made ones that they're sending around via satellites and all the rest of it.
Right, sure. So being discerning and discriminating with the energy that you're taking in, and is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If it sits right, if it feels right, go with your gut. If it starts making you think strange thoughts or whatever, go, okay, we'll try to push that energy away, put the metaphorical tin hat on.
And that's a great point, because I really think at the moment there's just such an overload of energy coming from every direction on every topic that you really are being strongly guided to go within and find the answers always from within, using your own internal barometer, your own inner knowing, your own intuition, as opposed to looking outside yourself, external referencing, looking outside yourself to find the answers. And I think that's one of the biggest things at the moment that humanity are being asked to follow, and to also go with things that resonate in your heart center. The mind or the mental body is generally a lower vibrational energy, more focused on survival, as opposed to the heart and the love center, which always has that higher frequency, high vibration, and is really the true meaning of everything. So what's your feelings, Jason, with the energy at the moment? How have you been feeling the last few months? Have you been up and down energetically, or have you found that there's a lot of stuff that's come up for you to shift? How's it been feeling for you?
Well, I agree with what you're saying about the energy and what's going on. I also have, I'm very, very strong minded about that we create our own realities.
Yeah.
So I try not to let outside influences affect me. So when everyone's posting, retrograde or this or that and the other, I go, okay, I'm not even going to look at those posts, because I know that if I do, I start feeding into it. It affects me. So it's like an energy contagion, So if
can I just add sorry for interrupting, but I read this thing. It was so interesting, talking about how Mercury retrograde is, and it's a notion of the sort of the darker elements that are trying to influence our high frequency. That it may, it's just like a program that we're buying into, which drops our vibration. So it's good to be aware of that, because I think, holding really strong belief systems about anything at the moment can be a problem, because as our whole reality shifts, we need to be open to seeing the whole world completely differently, and looking from a higher perspective that perhaps wasn't open to us before. So I think that was a great point about the Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't buy into them. I don't look at the posts. I just go, right, I'm creating my own energy. As you said, looking within instead of externally. And so to a certain point, I don't let those outside energies influence me, whether it be negatively or, if it's something that I go, oh, that could be a positive, I'll let it come in, I'll let it in, but it's got to sit right with me and it's got to align with me.
Sure, absolutely. Fantastic. That's great advice, I think. Cool. So if you were someone who was, for example, just awakened and you've sort of started to have a more spiritual outlook on life, and you're seeing the world differently, not from perhaps that 3D perspective, but you're starting to feel like, you've got a higher team working with you, you've got angels, all that sort of thing happening. What would you recommend for people to do that want to explore that further? How would you encourage people to develop that?
Okay, so the first thing I say to anyone, because normally they've started opening up, they've started raising their vibration, they're starting to open themselves up to so much more. The one thing I sort of stress for most people is the higher you raise, keep your protections at the same level.
Okay.
So the more open we get, sometimes the more we have to protect ourselves, because I've had people that have opened up rather quickly without putting any protections in place and have got to the point where they become agoraphobic. They won't leave the house because they can't be around people, because they just absorb everyone's energies and thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, I encourage people to open up. I encourage people to learn.
Yeah.
But I think they also need controls, and protections in place.
Yes, that's a great point. Really good. We'll explore that. So it's like, when you tune into a radio station, but all of a sudden, as you're opening up, you're getting all the radio stations coming at you at once. And it's just this blur of, all these voices and all this energy. And I mean, how do you deal with that if all that happens all of a sudden? You think you're just going crazy. And of course, if the mainstream wouldn't see that as being anything other than someone that needs to go to a psychiatric institution or something. I love the shamanic way of looking at this, where they see this as a birthing, and they support that process, and they really allow people to go through that birthing process and get to the other side, and fully supported. I'd love to see that in our Western culture, with these shamanic practices where you're able to have that support through that process. But what would you encourage in terms of protection? What can people do if they're wanting to raise their protection?
Okay, so to me, because I've studied so many different modalities and all the rest of it, I believe in programming your own protections, I guess. It doesn't matter what you use as long as you put the belief in it and you do it repetitively so it becomes your reality. Yeah. It's the old thing about, if I light a particular type of candle at a particular type of day or whatever, and I'm told it'll make me feel a certain way, will it because it's magic, or will it because I've been told that that's what's going to happen? So that's what my mind makes happen. So most of magic for me happens in the mind first.
Yeah.
And then, when it becomes a ritual, like, a sports person with their lucky undies, if it becomes a ritual and they've done it often enough that subconsciously it's embedded in them, and then it becomes their reality.
A really big example.
So any protection.
Can I just say, it reminds me of the Aboriginals, when they used to point the bone at someone and say you're going to die, and then that person would die because they have that belief system that, okay, this is my demise now, I'm going, this is the end for me. And that really illustrates that so well, that whole mindset thing that we create our own reality.
Oh yeah, definitely. So your protections can be anything, putting yourself in a pink bubble, I like ones that refresh constantly. So every doorway that I see, I imagine white universal light coming down like a waterfall through the doorway.
Yep.
So any time that I'm going in or out of any doorway, I'm getting that refreshed.
Beautiful.
You know, so it's a constant. You know,
it reminds me on the computer, your refresh button on the computer. It's the same sort of concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have certain pieces of jewellery that I'll wear that I've, you know, put the intent that they are for a particular thing.
Yeah.
But I've also put the intent that the energy is kinetic. So if it's a ring, every time I move my hand, I'm charging that energy kinetically.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Oh, there's some good tips there. I love the image of the waterfall too. It's very beautiful.
Mm.
Okay, so is there anything? I'll put you on the spot. Is there anything that you can tell me, like if you could give me a sentence of something that's relevant and interesting for me at the moment? Is there anything that you could say just to personalize it and bring your gifts into this moment now? Is there anything interesting you can tell me? Just a sentence.
Right.
Or is that putting you on the spot too much?
If I was that's okay. That's okay. If I would to say anything, I'd probably say rest.
Right.
You do need a little bit of rest every now and again.
Yes.
I think your sleeping patterns aren't really great at the moment, are they?
I'm getting quite a bit of sleep.
Yeah.
But the thing is, at the moment, we haven't got blinds on our windows, so I've actually been sleeping. The moon has been shining on me, and so I've been getting a moon bath all night, which is great because I love the moon divine feminine energy. But it is hard to sleep when it's shining on you all night. So that could be it. And we've actually got the blinds at home ready to put up, but we have to paint a bit first before we can put them up. So that could be what's interfering.
There you go. So you're getting this influx of, as you said, the moon bath and everything. This influx of energy. I just feel every now and again you've got to give yourself permission to rest. It just feels like a lot of it's go.
Oh, it is. That's true. And I've got very sensitive energy, and I feel the shifts very strongly too. So I need time to integrate them and process them. And so thank you. I'll take that on board. I'll definitely do that more. Thank you. And for yourself, what do you encourage yourself to really in terms of self-love, self-care? I'm all about, I run classes in self-love and self-care. What do you need to do for yourself at the minute to really honor yourself and, really look after your energy at the minute?
At the moment, I guess it's a matter of, for me, we're all always our own worst patients, so to speak. But every now and again, I have to slow down and just take stock and go, setting boundaries, I guess. Yeah. With some clients, I get some clients that get very, I try to emphasize autonomy and try to get them to work on their own. But I've had one or two clients that started emailing or texting me at all different sort of times. It's like, I'm not good at saying no sometimes. I have to set those boundaries and say no sometimes. So I think that's a big one for me.
Okay, fantastic. That's good. I'm sure that people listening.
Thank you for letting me acknowledge that.
Oh, well, thank you. People will learn a lot from that because, these are all really important things we need to be mindful of, particularly at the moment with such strong energies coming through. Well, I thank you so much, Jason. It's been a fantastic talk and very interesting. Lots of things that we've discussed that might be helpful, I think, for people to listen to at this time. And just to know that, we're all going through this together. We're not alone, and we can learn from one another. Yeah. So I really appreciate it. And if people want to contact you, I'll put your contact information at the bottom of the interview. So what can you tell us about, performances coming up, or how people can contact you?
What have I got coming up? A lot of my ones are the psychic parties and that in people's homes are sort of like private type ones. I have a charity one for Beyond Blue with Greg Riley coming up only about a week and a half, I think, or a couple of weeks. So, yeah, look, people can contact me through my website. There's the email and everything there. Or seems to be most people contact me through Facebook. So, it's either or. But, if people want to book anything, they can have a look at the website and see what's on offer.
Beautiful. Oh, well, thank you so much, Jason. Wonderful to chat with you. And I hope that people have enjoyed this chat today. So please like and subscribe if you enjoy. So thank you. Bye.
Bye.